Who's ready for more stories? We are back with episode 3 of going through my emails, where I'm going to pick a place to start a long time ago and I'm just going to read a story, click next, read a story, click next. We're doing this because I literally have thousands of your stories in my inbox and I want to get through as many as I possibly can. So I started making these long videos where I just read a bunch of them. I don't know if they're going to be long. I don't know if they're going to be short. I don't know if they're going to be good. I don't know if they're going to make any sense, but we're just going to go through them and you get what you get. What's up, glitches? My name is Jess. People call me Auntie Matrix and I read your weird, unexplainable stories about things like glitches in the Matrix, dreams, aliens, and the paranormal. These are true personal experiences from real people. Our motto in this community is we believe you. If you want to join our glitch community in Discord, if you want to send me your own story, if you want to join the lives, or if you want to grab a copy of my book, A Glitch in the Matrix, or some of my Auntie Matrix merch, all of those links are in the description below. I'm going to go find a place to start, so you sit back, grab a snack, and let's get weird. Hello, Auntie Matrix. Hi. I hope you read this on one of your videos. My now fiance and I have a terrifying story of a demonic haunting. I won't apologize, but heads up, this is a longer one. We've been together for over 6 years. The story starts 2 years after we met in our first ever apartment. We've been living on and off together for a couple of years since we met, as he had a kind of toxic home life, so he would spend many nights a week at my university rental space. While we lived on and off together those first couple of years, we never felt anything I would call haunted or demonic. I'm a person who has always been very sensitive to the paranormal and had a link to the veil. My abilities sometimes verge on being a full psychic medium, though I have never fully indulged this side of me to connect with things beyond what bleed through the veil, for the reason of also being conduit for the paranormal, meaning they can use me and my power to manage without limits. When we finally moved in together in our first apartment, it was an old 70s style building, all concrete and steel. This is when we start experiencing crazy hauntings. My fiance has always been a skeptic. He rarely believed the experiences I would have on campus or in the student housing. He would call it an act of imagination or me playing pranks. When we finally moved in together to this apartment, it started almost immediately. It wasn't small things either. The cabinets would open on their own. Plates, cups, and mugs would go flying out of the sleeves onto the floor. Our cat and bunny rabbit would start freaking out randomly, trying to run out of the area. At first, it just seemed like we had a poltergeist in the kitchen. At this point, after multiple instances, my fiance really finally started to believe. While we lived there, it never really escalated. It always just felt like a constant presence. I would have dreams or premonition dreams where I would see a young man from the 60s or 70s named David. This is what we started calling him. At this point, he was damaging our mental states as well, making both of us act very out of character, lots of yelling and hurting each other. We both knew it wasn't us and would express the feeling of being taken over during these episodes. It was like he was possessing us. Neither of us would even remember the episodes, and it was affecting us randomly, even to our own families, who said they didn't recognize us or know why we were acting so out of character. The story escalates when we finally moved out of that apartment. At first, we moved in with my parents to their basement. My fiance and I both would feel his presence still, and were experiencing similar things to the apartment before we moved. Then he started following us. First, it was my fiance to work. I work from home. At the time, my fiance was a mechanic at a small town shop out in the country with only 4 coworkers, and he would notice tools moved when he was the only one in the shop. He would come home to tell me the oil line, which is a tension tube in the ceiling, would randomly pull itself out. Tools would go flying and doors would unlock on their own. The same time, I was noticing new things around the house while I was working from home. I would hear the voices of my family calling me from rooms when I knew no one was home. I would find kitchen utensils on the floor when I had just asked if there was nothing in my way. The haunting was getting worse. We finally moved out of my parents' place a couple of months ago, and it has been persistent. New house, my fiance has a new job. There should be no reason to still be experiencing these hauntings. While we were unpacking from our move, we grabbed a handful of boxes from storage. Some were stored in my parents' place and others in a storage locker. In one of the boxes from my parents' house we hadn't opened since we moved from the apartment was the doorknob from the old fucking haunted kitchen. There is no reason a cabinet doorknob would be in our storage box. There's no reason it should have come with us to every house we have ever lived in it after. It and all the poltergeist activities led us to burn the doorknob. It was a wood knob and should have burned through in 10 minutes. 33 minutes later, it was done burning and had bubbles, like there was something trying to escape. We cleansed the house and continued to do regular positive light rituals to our space. I haven't felt the presence, and our relationship instantly recovered from the constant benevolent presence that was looming over us for years. I also haven't dreamt of David once since the burning. Thank you for reading this. Okay, what a story to start out with. I was going to say you probably had something from the old apartment that you had taken with you. But the thing that I'm confused about is that you both were experiencing things. Was it at the same time? Because you said that he was experiencing things at work and you were experiencing things at home. Was it happening at the same time? Because I'm not sure how that entity could go two places at once. Also, I'm not sure. You know what? No, I don't think that being that David was at his job because he didn't have the doorknob with him at the job and things were still happening at home for you. And that's where the doorknob was. So maybe just the place that he worked was haunted as well. Oh no, you said he got a new job, right? I was going to say, is he still experiencing things after you've gotten rid of David and you've burned the doorknob at the job, but he had a new job? I think those are separate. That's my take. I think that the doorknob came with you. Maybe the entity put the doorknob in your suitcase or in the box or whatever. But I think that it came with you from the apartment and it was in your apartment. And I think that the instances at the job were completely separate. And maybe that was a separate spirit or entity or something. That is my take. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments. And thank you so much for sharing your story. Hi, Auntie Matrix. Hi. I love your stories and make sure I am caught up every day. This story is one that is near and dear to my heart, even though it doesn't end very happily, and it is 100% true. About 15 years ago, I was coming home from work and spotted a puppy in a field on my way home. I wasn't an official pet rescuer, but I did have a kind of code within myself that if an animal ever crossed my path and was in need or in danger, I would always try to help. This tiny little pit puppy couldn't have been more than 12 weeks old, and the field she was in was right next to a busy street with lots of traffic. I knew I needed incentive for her, so I drove the rest of the way home, went inside, and got my leftover Mexican food from the night before. I drove back to the field, and she was nowhere to be found. The tumbleweeds in the desert town in California were pretty tall, but this particular field had been recently cleared for development, so there were only new tumbleweeds here and there to obstruct my vision, and I couldn't see her anywhere. I left the leftovers in the field, hoping she might come back and find it, got in my car, and headed back home. When I got back to my house, she was sitting on my front porch. I have no idea how she could possibly have found me or why she would have even decided to. I had only driven by and spotted her for a second, but somehow she must have known I was there to help and decided to help me help her. Or it was coincidence. We named her Aggie, and she was a beautiful brindle pit. She got along okay with our other dog, Binky, a shepherdish kind of dog. They were about the same size when both fully grown, but Aggie was more stocky and muscular, and Binky was more lean. Everything was going fine until one day, a little dog dug under my fence into the yard while I was at work, and the three of them began to fight. The little dog lost first, of course, and both Aggie and Binky must have brought the fight back inside the house through the dog door because my hallway and stairs looked like a bloody crime scene. Both dogs needed lots of stitches and drains, and after that, they couldn't be anywhere near each other without trying to kill one another. We were brokenhearted. We had to find a new home for one of them, and since we had Binky first and longer, and Aggie was still a puppy, though a big puppy, we decided to rehome Aggie. I put her on Pet Finder with some super cute pictures and a cute description, and within a couple of weeks, we found someone to take her. The new people's house was about 15 miles from my house, in the middle of miles of desert and hills, and they agreed to let us visit, so that was nice. The people took us inside and showed us Aggie's fluffy new bed waiting by the fireplace, and we got to meet their son, who was the one they were getting the dog for. I was elated to find a good and loving home for her. We parted ways, but before I even got home, I got a call from them saying she had jumped over the fence and tried to follow my car. Oh my God, my heart. I immediately turned back around to look for her. I drove through the desert looking for her. I parked and walked through the desert calling her name until the sun started to go down. There was no sign of her. Over the next 3 weeks, I continued driving out to the field to look for Aggie. I had learned during that time that I was pregnant with my first child, but even tired and nauseated, I still went out the desert hills almost every day to walk the field and call for Aggie. She was my love and my responsibility, and I knew I couldn't live with myself if I couldn't find her. Toward the last day of those 3 weeks, she was lost. I was exhausted, super sick, and super frustrated. I felt like God shouldn't make it so hard for me to take care of one of his creations, especially knowing my condition and how much my heart hurt that she got lost trying to follow me home. I was in tears. I had already walked a different part of the field almost every day calling her name and had never seen her once, not even a glimpse. I got in my car and sobbing, I said, "Okay, God, this is not fair. You know I'm trying my hardest to take care of your little creation and that I love her and I need to find her, but I can't do this anymore, so you're going to have to help me out here." Not knowing what I was even going to try next, I started my car and drove over a tall hill to turn around and come home, and not even 10 seconds after my prayer, I came across the first patch of grass I'd ever seen in the field, and sitting on it, resting and panting away, was Aggie. Almost out of my mind at that point, I opened my car door, and she immediately ran to me, jumped over my lap into the passenger seat, and we rode back to my house. I had no idea what to do next since she and Binky still wanted to kill each other at first sight. It was now summer, and as a school teacher, I was home from work. Weeks went by where I had to alternate keeping one dog in my bedroom while letting the other one have the run of the house for about 3 hours at a time, each time opening the bedroom door slowly to crate the one in the bedroom so the other dog could safely run past her from the open house to the bed. I was even more pregnant by this time, and I was exhausted and knew that this was no way for dogs to live. Finally, after explaining the situation to a friend, that friend agreed to take Aggie to his house and see how it went. But after a long time sitting together to acclimate Aggie to her new potential home and her new family, when I drove away a second time, she immediately jumped the fence to follow me. My friend went to look for her and said he could not find her anywhere, but I knew this was a much busier and dangerous area for a dog to be running around. I got in the car and went to look for her. On the third day, my friend relayed that he had been looking too and saw a dog that resembled her being picked up off the side of the road. I drove to animal control in the area where I read through the lists of deceased animals that had been picked up in the area, and when I got to one who fit Aggie's description, I asked to see her. The first animal control agent told me they were not allowed to let people see animals they'd picked up for health reasons, but then another agent came out who happened to be a lady I had known for a long time from before when she had worked at PetSmart for a lot of years. She saw me standing there with my swollen face, pregnant and crying, trying to find some closure, if not some hope. I told her I don't have to see her. If you could just do me the favor of going back and looking to see if her bottom 2 front teeth are chipped, I will know she's my Aggie. They were chipped. I was devastated. Such a sweet, beautiful girl. She didn't deserve for her little life to end this way. I thanked them and left crying. When I got home, I knew that there was no other place Aggie would have been comfortable other than with me, and this devastated me more. The only thing that brought me any comfort at all was the idea that if she couldn't be with me, at least she'd be with God, and he would take better care of her than I ever could. With a new baby on the way, I knew it wasn't exactly safe to have a skittish pity around a newborn, especially one who was as possessive and protective of me as Aggie was. I also knew, and I knew God had to know as well, that I would never have given up on Aggie. I'd have tried to make it work anyway, with the newborn, and risked something terrible happening. It's just who I am. In my heart, I truly felt that this was the only way for everyone to be safe and taken care of, even though it broke my heart that Aggie didn't get a chance to live out the full and beautiful life she deserved. My daughter is now 14 and in one piece and healthy, and together we have rescued and found homes for many dogs and cats who have crossed my path. Still, I think about Aggie and what a beautiful and wonderful loyal dog she was, and how fate continued to bring us together even though it wasn't meant to be. Thank you for reading my story. I know it's not as supernatural-ish or glitch in the matrix-ish as most of your stories, but it always has been a part of my life that continues to remind me that destiny must exist and that everything happens for a reason. There was definitely a reason that Aggie was in your life. I don't know what that reason is, but obviously there was a reason, especially in the beginning. You just passed her. You didn't even stop, and she didn't get your scent or anything, and she followed you home. Like, she went home. She figured out where you lived just from you passing her. You definitely had some kind of connection, and I'm not sure what it was for. I'm so sorry for your loss. That is so, so sad. I'm glad that you're still helping animals, though. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Why do you think that Aggie was in her life? Thank you so much for sharing your story. Hey, hun. Hi. Love your page. I have a strange, scary, but comforting story. My dad got sick back in 2019 and passed within 3 months. It was a horribly hard time for the family. I'm so sorry. Me and my dad would always talk about the afterlife and if it really existed. He would say, "I'll let you know if there is an afterlife, but I won't haunt you," because he knew I would drop dead. I'm not good with scary stuff. So a couple of months passed after his funeral, and my aunt calls my mom and tells her a lady approached her at the mall asking if she knew my dad. She told them yes, and the lady said, I need to get in contact with his wife. Could you please pass my number on to her? So my aunt did that. My mom was hesitant on calling this number. She called me, the eldest daughter, and my sister to be together so we could call the lady. This is where things get strange. She answered, and my mom told her who she was and that her number had been given to her. The lady said, You don't know me, but I worked with your husband back in 1990 at a hospital. That's how we met. She told us they used to talk about the afterlife and strange things like that in the lunchroom at lunch. She said, I haven't seen your husband since then. How is he? My mom didn't know how to tell her, and before she could, she goes, I have a message from your husband. The lady said to my mom, Your husband came to me last Friday, and he looked so different to when I met him. He was very thin, and his hair was so long. She said he had said to her, Can you see me? What's happened? Have I passed? She said to him, I don't know because I can see you. And he says, Please find out. He then told her, Please get in contact with my wife and tell her I'm fine and that I'm sorry. She goes, I don't know your wife. How can I get in contact with her? He goes to her, Tomorrow, when you're out, I'll send someone your way that knows her. That's how she bumped into my aunt at the mall. She didn't know her, but she said I had a gut feeling that lady knew her, my mom. She was in shock when my mom told her he had passed not that long ago. She told us that's why he came to me, knowing I wouldn't be scared and I would see him, as he knew she believed in the afterlife. She couldn't believe it. I believe this lady, as she had no contact or possible way of knowing this. She later went on to tell us that he was fine and at peace, that all he wanted was to let us know that he was fine and that there was more after death. Wow, only my dad would do that. She even said a young boy was there to meet him and both his parents and your mom. She said to my mom, How could she know that? She even used nicknames that my dad would use for my brother and sister she wouldn't know. She also said, Tell Nicole, that's me, that her older brother looks just like her, but a boy version. That was a baby my mom had miscarried before me. How would she know that? That's impossible. Anyways, I feel like even though this is strange and scary kind of, it brought us some closure and somehow healed our hearts knowing that he was fine. Thanks, Dad, for letting us know that there's an afterlife. Nicole. Oh, I love that he found someone to reach out to you to let you know, just like he said that he would. In the beginning, I was worried he didn't know he was dead in the beginning when he said, Am I dead? And I'm so glad that lady had the balls to actually do it, to actually reach out. That's a hard thing to do, you know? I'm so sorry for your loss, but I'm so glad that that happened and brought you some closure. Let me know what you guys think in the comments, and thank you so much for sharing your story. Hi, Auntie Matrix. Hi. I have a story for you. It starts with me and my partner trying for a baby. Me been me, always looking for signs. I had a scripture on my wall. Have I not commanded you? Be strong and of good courage. Do not be afraid, nor be dismayed, for the Lord your God is with you wherever you go. Joshua 1:9. So I thought, maybe I'll get pregnant and have a baby on September 1st, and it might be a boy. So I planned to call him Joshua. Didn't happen, but either way, I did end up pregnant, and I was 13 weeks. I went and told my children and my mom and my sister. All went well. Then at 16 weeks, I started bleeding. Went to the hospital, and they said there was no heartbeat. So sent me home and told me to come back in 3 days, and they will help me deliver the baby. I ended up going into labor at home and delivering the baby. We went to the hospital, and they checked over me and the baby, which was a boy. They said the baby only measured as if he was 13 weeks, even though I miscarried at 16 weeks. This was on September 21st. Remember this. This is where it gets weird. Anyway, from the time I told my family I was pregnant, things were seen and happening in the house. I saw a figure of a boy in the kitchen one morning, about the size of a 4 to 5-year-old. Then I was in bed one evening with my husband, and our bedroom door was open, and I saw a figure run past the door that looked about 3 years old. My husband was up for work one morning, and he was in the kitchen, and then left to pop to the toilet, and when he returned, all the cupboard doors were open. Another occasion, he was shutting the front door, and as he turned, he saw a shadow go into the kitchen of a child. He followed after, and no one was there. I woke to go to the bathroom one evening, and as I walked out of the room, I saw perfectly a boy in a white shirt and trousers, but his legs faded away, and he had his back to me. He turned and walked into the wall and vanished. He looked like my son, who was that age now. Then one night, my daughter, who was 5, woke one night saying that there was a boy that looked like her big brother standing at her door, staring at her. And his eyes were big and bright and had on a white shirt and trousers. Now, keep in mind, I never mentioned the boy that I saw to her. Skip ahead, I get pregnant again and I have a healthy baby boy who I named Joshua, and he was born 1 year and 9 months since I lost my other little boy. Scripture was Joshua 1:9. Baby stopped growing at 13 weeks. I miscarried him at 16 weeks on September 21st, making the time he had passed would have been September 1st if he stopped growing at 3 weeks prior. God, yes, I believe, or Matrix relapse. I'm a little confused about this child spirit, and I'm not sure what I think about it because I'm not sure. I'm trying to figure out in the story if you said from the time you told your family you were pregnant, you started seeing this figure of this boy. So was this like the spirit of your son that was supposedly growing inside you? Or did this start happening after you miscarried? Either way, I think that was definitely the spirit of your child, and I love that he was hanging around. Do you still see him hanging around, or did that stop after a little while? That's my question. I'm so sorry for your loss, by the way. Let me know what you guys think in the comments, and thank you so much for sharing your story. Hey, Auntie Matrix. Hi. Something strange just happened, and I'm immediately writing to you because who else would understand? Not that you'll know the answer, but at least I can express myself without feeling ostracized. So I've been away from my apartment for the last 5 days dog sitting. I got home early this morning, cooked some breakfast, and then had time to crawl into bed for a little nap. It's cold out today, so it felt good to crawl into bed. I wasn't really sleeping, but thoroughly enjoying my time just resting. At one point, I rolled over onto my back, and before I know it, I'm guessing I fell asleep, I feel immense pressure surrounding me. I can't open my eyes, and there's a loud whooshing noise happening in my ears. I wake up in an entirely different room, and I feel so confused as to what just happened. The next thing I know, I'm being sucked back into this heavy whooshing feeling, and I'm somewhere else, completely different. This time I'm outside in a field and see some kids playing off in the distance. Again, I'm like, what is happening? Where am I? I felt very conscious the whole time. This happened several more times. At one point, I'm whooshed back into my room and I sit up, but it feels like someone or something is attached to my back. I quickly spin around and see nothing, but I fall off the bed with my feet and legs still on the bed. As I'm laying on the ground, I feel something jumped up and down on the bed. I look up and it's a little girl who looked just like me, laughing and smiling in a very creepy way. Then the whooshing happens all over again. Every time I'm in the whoosh space, it's very intense. I even attempted to pull myself out of it, but it just made me whoosh faster. So hard to explain. Nothing like this has happened to me before. It felt like forced time travel or astral projection. No clue, but I am so curious to know what other people think. You definitely sound like you were astral projecting. I'm wondering because, we all astral travel and stuff while we're sleeping a lot. So I wonder if that's what was just happening. But for some reason, in this instance, you were aware of it. So you were feeling the whoosh. Because the whooshing sensation and the whooshing feeling are some of the things that people do describe when they're astral traveling. So I wonder if it was happening just like it would normally happen at night when you're like dreaming, but you were aware of it and you were conscious through it this time. Has it ever happened again? This is an old story. Please let me know. I'm so interested. What do you guys think in the comments? Has this ever happened to anybody like this? Let me know. And thank you so much for sharing your story. Hey, Auntie. Hi. I've literally watched all of your videos and I wait eagerly each day for new ones. Obsession, perhaps? Buckle up because I have 3 of these I am sending. We have many more, but for the sake of length, I will send you the top 3. These are all stories regarding my dad. His name is Skip. Okay, hold the phone because number 1, I'm having deja vu. I don't know if we read this before, and I just went back and I looked in my stories in my email and I cannot find anything from this person's email address again, so it has to be the first time we're reading it. But second of all, my dad's name is Skip. Freaking me out. Okay, let's go. Now some background on my dad. He is a 6'6" large man. We're talking football size, where high school coaches begged him to play, but he was a gentle giant, much like his dad, who was also a gentle giant at 6'8". So he really isn't afraid of much. We are Indigenous/Native American, so I feel like spiritually we're more open or aware of the spiritual world, even though we are Christian. My dad has had many things happen to him in his lifetime, ranging from aliens, spirits, to creatures I can only explain as either Bigfoot, Wolfman, or Mothman. These are those stories. Story number 1. When my dad was younger, about 14 or 15, my dad and his brother lived on the outskirts of town in Des Moines, Iowa. Being a product of the 50s, there wasn't terribly too much to do besides outdoor activities, and being late at night, there wasn't anything besides a night walk. So the two boys left for a walk down to their high school football field. The field only consisted of open grass and the old wooden stand that announcers used to sit in. They climbed up into the wooden stand and sat talking for a while with nothing seeming abnormal. After 30 minutes or so, they noticed these lights in the sky, which as it moved closer, hovered above the field for a short while above the clouds. They could make out the lights, but no obvious shape, just its size. At this point, they both decided it's probably best to make their way back, so they climb down and head for the gravel road back home. Here is where it gets weird, though. They both notice simultaneously that as they take each step, something in the trees is taking steps. They step in unison to ensure they're not just hearing an echo or reverberation from their feet hitting the ground. Step for step, it matched the exact steps they were taking, which began to make them uneasy, as that would indicate that it was intelligent. They sped up to a speed walk, and each step kept up with them. They finally broke out into full sprint, and to their dismay, it also kept up with the steps and the speed. They reached their home and ran inside, having never found out what followed them that night, but he says he will always remember how exact each step was and how calculated it felt. Story number 2. Fast forward to the 1970s. My dad is now in the military. He's young and pretty stupid. So come time for the holidays, when he requests time off to visit family and is denied, he decides to head home anyway. Now, a little information. He is currently stationed somewhere in the mountains in Kentucky, and he drives a motorcycle. He decides it's a great idea to head home during a blizzard on a motorbike, hoping to be back that following Monday. He was dumb. He begins his drive and soon realizes the roads are worse than he expected, and he is beginning to freeze. He doesn't see an open gas station for a while and is unable to stop to warm up. Soon, a semi pulls ahead of him, and he decides to trail the semi to use the draft of the truck to pull him along, as well as block the cold. He follows it for a few hours, and as they make their way out of the storm, they reach a T intersection. He watches the semi turn left. He pulls forward to the stop and looks both ways. He looks right, he looks left, and the semi is not there. At this point, the storm had faded, and he could see for a solid mile or two. In a matter of 5 to 10 seconds, it was just him, no semi. He truly felt that the semi saved his life in the mountains, because without it, he would have run out of gas, frozen. In fact, he hit a deer at 70 miles an hour and wrecked his bike a few years later and walked away with a few scrapes. He is one tough cookie. Story number 3. When I was 1, my parents went out with 4 of their friends for a night drive. Apparently, that's what people did back then. It was 6 people in total, my parents and the 4 friends. They drove to a part of town very close to the location of the first story, where a bridge sits and rumor has it is haunted by a mom and her baby after she drove off the road on a curve. As lore has it, when you open the windows and drive across the bridge, you can hear someone crying. It's called the Crying Bridge, and I've seen it personally. It was late, probably 1 a.m., and as they drove across the bridge, they realized it was incredibly quiet. For this part of town, you usually hear dogs, farm animals, owls, etc. It isn't really ever super quiet, but this night, it was so incredibly quiet that one of their friends in the back seat made mention of it in passing. My dad, driving, decides to turn the car around at the top of the hill and head back across the bridge on their way back to town. This is a surface B road, dirt mainly, and on either side is a cornfield and then a whole bunch of trees. They make their way across the bridge when my mother, in the passenger seat, hears some dogs bark to her right, so she looks out the window. In the brush, about 10 feet from her, are 2 red eyes. They were glowing. She makes mention to my dad about it, and he jokes and writes it off. That is, until the guy in the back seat says, "No, man, I saw it too." So my dad, being a guy who really isn't afraid of things, puts the car in reverse and proceeds to start backing up. As the tail lights light up, all 6 people in the car see a bipedal, 2-legged creature walk up the ditch, cross from the left side of the road to the right side, and stop in front of the stop sign attached to the bridge. What they said was a figure whose shoulders were the height of the stop sign. all black, red glowing eyes just standing and looking at them. It didn't move, it just stared. My dad tried to keep backing up, but one of the guys in the back seat jumped into the front seat and peed his pants. So they yelled at my dad to drive off. This figure stood there watching them until they couldn't see it anymore. This figure stood there watching them until they couldn't see it anymore. I have asked their friends about this and none of them want to talk about it. I've attached a photo of what the bridge, minus the wood exterior and the stop sign, looked like. It was later torn down. Stop signs are 7 feet tall, so this figure's shoulder met at the top of the sign. The reflection of the taillights lit up and the outline of the figure. Everything else was dark. They estimate this figure was about 8 feet tall to 8.5 feet tall. My dad went back during the day at a later time and stood next to the stop sign with his head only hitting the bottom third of the sign. Weird shit happens every day, and I don't believe we are the only ones to exist. But if you think about it, humans are pretty presumptuous to think that we have all the answers or that we are all that exists. Honestly, we will never really know, but it's pretty cool to hear all these stories from your readers. Thanks so much. Discovery Plus or Travel Channel needs to give you a show, by the way. Yes! Hey, Discovery Channel or Travel Channel or Netflix show? Should we do a show? Okay, here's the picture of the area that they were talking about. So this is the little like bridge thing, and this is the stop sign. I wonder what that creature was. I wonder if it was an alien, since it was in the same area as clearly your dad saw some sort of UFO, especially because everything was silent. Because when things are silent, that normally points towards aliens coming. And I don't know if it's, like we've talked about this before, I don't know if it has to do with the physics of the ship or if it has to do with just everything gets quiet when there's something fucking weird around. The second story where your dad was basically saved, I feel like that was definitely some sort of guardian angel or guide looking after him and helping him get home safe, which was really nice. But the other two, and plus, oh my God, the fact that the friends won't even talk about it. I need to know what you guys think. Let me know what you think in the comments, and thank you so much for sharing these stories. Hi, Auntie Matrix. Hi. I love your Glitch in the Matrix videos. Woo! Also, sorry if there are any spelling/grammar mistakes. English is my second language. No worries at all. And also, one last thing. I've kept yearly records on when each thing started happening. So first, some backstory. Ever since I was a baby, one of my earliest memories from when I started crawling was that I was afraid to be in my sister's room. And not so sure if that second part is true, but I remember that I even cried when I was in that room, no matter if I was alone or not. So that is the first strange thing, because I had no reason to be scared of that room at all, yet I still was. Later on, around 2018, the knocking started. So basically, I would hear random knocks on the bathroom door while I was taking a shower. I brushed them off because mom and dad were home, and my 9-year-old brain thought, as long as mom and dad are home, I'm safe. Then around 2020, the quarantine hit and the online classes started. That's when my parents started leaving me home alone, and that is also when it started getting stronger. It started out with it mimicking my mom, saying ouch, like she's gotten hurt. Then in 2021, it started saying my name using my mom or sister's voices, even though my sister doesn't live with us anymore. Keep in mind, their voices sounded quite odd. You could even say inhuman. In the start of 2023, it started getting into my dreams. The dreams consist of me looking at myself in the corner of my room and it floating above my desk. And I wasn't that freaked out, at least until today. How are you not so freaked out, friends? So I was watching this lady on TikTok that talks about and has lived in the Appalachian Mountains. I was watching the video where she showed us that she was alone, and in the video you could clearly hear a male voice saying, hey, which sounded off, like it wasn't human, just like the ones I've been hearing. And right after the video ended, something literally shoved my heater in the wall and the paint came off. So if anybody has some tips on how to deal with it, please leave them down in the comments and I'll be reading them if this ever gets posted. You definitely have some sort of energy in this house. It seems like it has gotten stronger through the years, now at the point that it's mimicking voices. And the fact that it physically pushed something is kind of scary. It's definitely ramping up its energy and you need to get rid of it. I would definitely cleanse your house. Tell it to go away. Use your words. Cleanse the house. I don't know if there's anything specific that you should do for this particular situation. If anybody knows, let us know in the comments, please. Also, if you've experienced something like this, let us know in the comments as well. And thank you so much for sharing your story. Hi, Auntie. Hi, I love your page. I love you. So I know it's a short one, but I hope you'll post it anyway because I need some help to understand things. A few years ago, when I first moved to live by myself, some things started to be weird. Like the TV was turning itself in the middle of the night. I always knew that I needed to be nice to ghosts and spirits, so I was telling it that it shouldn't do those things to make me know that it's here. It can stay as long as it wants. And even when the TV thing happened, I always said to it, "Come to stay with me and my cats are on the bed. There are plenty of space here." After a while, it stopped. "Can we please stop? Why are you inviting this thing in? Tell it to go away. You do not have to be nice. You could tell it to leave. And do not invite it into your bed, friend. You don't know what it is." I moved to another city, and things got weird again. When I was going upstairs to sleep and turn off the lights, I always had nightmares and bad dreams. And even the thing, I don't remember its name, when you kind of awake but not really, and you feel like someone is sitting on you and holding you back from waking up, and you scream and try to move, but nothing. That's sleep paralysis, by the way. The last night it happened, my dream was really scary for me. I saw a kid standing in my room watching me sleep. He looked like a picture from the 50s or something like that. He had a color like an old filter, and he was wearing a striped shirt, short pants with suspenders, and an old hat. I woke up immediately and I decided I will never again sleep with no lights on at all in that house. And it stopped. And ever since, every house I go still feels like there is something, and I'm always nice to it and speak to it, but sometimes I feel like maybe I should try to contact with it more, like call for it to show its face and have a talk to understand why it's here, and maybe I could help to fulfill things, to be able to go and find peace, but I'm too scared. Should I try? And how can I be sure it's not only in my mind? I don't know if you should try, honestly. I don't know. I think you saying, "Oh, you can come stay with me," attached that thing to you, and that's why everywhere you go, it is going. I don't know if it's good or bad. I mean, you haven't said that you've been scared by it really, so maybe it's not a bad presence, but if it's not a bad presence and you feel like it's okay to ask it to show itself or to try to speak with it more. But if you don't feel like it's okay and it scares you, tell that thing to leave. Use your words. Your words are so powerful, friends. Use your words. Say, "You are not welcome in my house. Get out." What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments. Thank you so much for sharing your story. Hi, Auntie Matrix. Hi. This is a bit of a long one, so I apologize in advance. Also, I need to add a trigger warning for death of a child. In 2017, I was going back to school for my college degree. I made a friend in my biology class who was pregnant with her first child at the time. Unfortunately, when the baby was 6 months old, he was unalived by his father. The man was arrested but later released due to lack of evidence. Fast forward a year, and she's pregnant again by the same man, and she suffers a stillbirth. This was obviously devastating for her as she's lost 2 children at this point. I feel terrible for her and told her that I would be praying. A few weeks go by and I haven't talked to her. One night, I had a dream that she was pregnant again with a little boy who was healthy. In my dream, time had sped up and she was close to delivery. She had made a Facebook post asking for daycare recommendations and ultimately decided on one that my daughter went to for a year and a half. I had an awful experience with them, so in the dream, I had asked her to reconsider because of my experiences with it. The dream was so vivid that it felt real. A little over a year ago, she announced she was pregnant with another baby boy. He was healthy, and the father is an amazing man. I had extreme deja vu because I dreamed this. Sure enough, my dream started coming true. The Facebook post, the message I sent her about the daycare, everything. Her son is just under a year old and is so healthy and happy. My friend and the father are now married, and the father of first 2 children is in prison for what he did to their first child. My question is, could I really have predicted this, or was it just wishful thinking that she'd have another chance to be a mother? Yeah, this definitely sounds like it was a premonition to me. I think it's crazy that you had a premonition like 2 years before it actually happened. Have you ever had any other premonition dreams that have come true? I wonder if you had it because maybe potentially you were worried about her, and so this was kind of letting you know that everything's going to be cool. She's going to be with a good dude and have a healthy baby, and it's going to be good. I don't know. I'm so sorry for her 2 losses. That is absolutely terrible. I am glad that person is in jail, and I'm glad that she's with a good man and has a healthy baby. Thank you so much for sharing your story. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Hi, Auntie from Chile. Hi. I apologize if my grammar is not that good. No worries, friend. This is a story I had with my son when he was 3 months old. He is now 5. I had him at 23, and then I had postpartum depression, and I always wondered if he was supposed to be with me or not. That feeling was permanent, and every day was getting bigger and worse. One day, I had to go to City Hall to fill out some papers for an exam that he had to have. I was standing waiting for my turn, and I had him in a foulard this big fabric to wrap and carry them everywhere. And he was being such a good boy, watching everything, smiling as he's always done. And all of a sudden, this old lady came right next to me. But she didn't even pay attention to me. She had short red hair, freckles, an amazing smell, and used a cane to walk. She grabbed my son's hand and started to say, "I'm so glad I found you. I see that you're okay. You have the very same smile that I remember. You're so lucky to have her," looks at me. "You're both going to be so happy together." And stopped talking. At that moment, the lady from the counter calls me, so I started walking, but then, literally 1 second after, I turned to say goodbye to this lovely grandma, and she wasn't there. I started to ask everyone if they saw her, and no one did. The room was full of people, and no one saw her. I did what I had to do and then reached to the security person in charge, and I asked him if the cameras were recording and was I able to watch. And after insisting a little bit, he took me to the camera room to see if there was or wasn't a lady, and no. I was smiling all by myself, looking at the air, and my son reached his hand to grab no one. I started to cry and left the place to never coming back. Crazy stories have happened with my boy after that, but that one makes me shiver the most. Oh my goodness, I wonder who that woman was. I wonder if it was an ancestor. I wonder if it was a guide of some sort. And I wonder what she meant by, like, "I'm so glad that I found you." But if that wasn't confirmation that you were supposed to be with this baby and you were going to be good to take care of this baby, I don't know what is. I can't believe you looked at the camera and the baby was like literally holding nothing. What do you guys think? Let me know, who do you think this was? Let me know in the comments. And thank you so much for sharing your story. Hi, Auntie Matrix. Hi. I've been watching and listening to you on TikTok and more recently on YouTube. I have several stories to tell you, but I'll start with this one. I grew up in Africa, and we are well aware of other beings that live with and around us. We know that we are not alone on this planet. My mother believed in feeding children, and I sometimes feel like she overfed us, but thankfully, none of us are overweight. I say this to explain why I'm saying she woke us up at least twice a night. Since my mother fed us at various times throughout the day, not just breakfast, lunch, and supper, but also waking us up in the middle of the night for tea and milk, she would make us all go to the bathroom right after our tea break in the middle of the night to attempt to pee so we didn't wet the bed. Don't ask me why she did it. Also, 2 of my uncles stayed with us. One lived with us permanently, and the other was seasonal. So this fateful night, when my mom woke us up for some reason, I decided to look through the hallway to the living room, and I saw a man in white sleeping on one of the couches. He looked like he had a weird mask over his face, similar to a gas mask, and he was dressed in a weird white outfit. I wasn't sure who it was, and I automatically thought it was my seasonal uncle, but at the same time, I felt scared. So I peed and I went back to bed. When I woke up the next day, I looked for him, and I asked my parents where he was. They both confirmed he wasn't back home, but I was sure that I saw someone. This happened when I was about 6 to 7 years old. Many years have passed, and I still remember it vividly. I am now 41, and about 2 months ago, I finally told my sister about it, and she said she saw the same thing. She couldn't tell anyone because she didn't want to sound like a weird person or scare anyone off. We believe it may have been on the same night. She also thought it was my uncle and was surprised when he wasn't at the house the next day. My sister keeps to herself a lot, so she never asked but was also very scared. I stopped looking towards the living room since that day, and my sister said she did the same back then. I love when another person, family member, friend, whoever validates a story for us. It must feel so good to be like, did I actually experience this? And someone's like, I saw it too. So good on you to the sister. So it couldn't have been your uncle, right? Because your uncle was alive. But definitely it sounded like some spirit. I wonder why they had a mask on. Interesting. There was definitely something in that house, but I'm so glad that your sister validated your experience. Thank you so much for sharing your story. Hi, Auntie Matrix. Hi. I want to say first, I love your videos. Thanks for all of them. I don't feel so alone hearing other stories like mine that you share. This is just one of many, but it's my first supernatural experience. So first off, I am an empath. I just figured this out about 4 years ago. For context, I am 36, but even though it's new to me, sensing things is not. I always thought it was weird that I have memories as early as 6 months old, but I do. That is where my story begins. So I remember my parents were still married at the time. We moved to a new house, my mom, dad, older half-sister. I can remember every night my mom would feed me and then lay me in my crib to fall asleep. Most nights I fell asleep on my own without having to be rocked to sleep. This night was no different. I always fell asleep on my back staring up at my mobile, and my eyes would get heavy and close. Then next, my tummy would wake me up pretty early for a feeding. So one night was the same routine. My mom fed me, put me down to fall asleep. As I was staring at my mobile and laying there waiting for sleep, a lady appeared. She was white, had dirty blonde hair, and blue-green eyes. She was dressed in white, and she had a sort of funny-looking crown, like the kind worn in ancient Greece. She would smile and watch me as I fell asleep, and I'd close my eyes with her there, and when I'd wake up, she'd be gone. She did that every night for 3 years. We moved 2 times as well, but after that first night, she was always there. Then when I was 3.5, she stopped. I got the feeling she was a spirit from the first house, and when we moved, she followed us. At least that's the feeling I get now remembering it. Obviously, as a 6-month-old, it was hard to objectively comprehend. I don't know. What do you think? I think it was definitely a spirit, but I think it may have been a spirit of maybe one of your ancestors or a family member that had passed that was just like watching over you while you slept, or maybe a guardian angel or something that was watching while you slept. I'm wondering, did you ever vocalize this to your parents? If it happened every night for 3 years, like you were able to talk probably around 2 or 3, right? You could form great sentences and talk. So I'm wondering if you mentioned it to your mom at all and if she remembers, especially when she stopped, right? I would think when she stopped, you would have been like, where'd the lady go? Like, Mom, where did the lady go that like floats above me while I'm sleeping? But I definitely think either ancestor or guardian or someone just watching you. Let me know what you guys think in the comments, and thank you so much for sharing your story. Hi, Auntie Matrix. Hi. I love your videos, and I hope I'll be able to be in one. Hey, you are. It only took a year. I'm super fascinated by paranormal activity, and believe it or not, you are the reason I got into it in the first place. Oh, this isn't really a glitch story, but it's something that happened 7 years ago. All right, so it was October of 2016 when I was in first grade. I believe it was the week of Halloween. I was at school in class when all of a sudden I heard creepy Halloween music that you'd hear in a horror movie. My classroom was right by the hall where there was a piano, so I didn't think much. This was happening while my 2 friends were in the bathroom. I mentioned it to my teacher, and she said that she didn't hear anything, but when I did that to my classmates, they all heard the same. This is where things started to escalate. My 2 friends came back from the bathroom looking like they had seen a ghost. When I asked them what happened, they said that they saw a ghost in the bathroom, then abruptly stopped their sentence to gasp and point at the window. There I saw something moving, almost like floating water moving past the classroom. You could see where the ghost was hiding, and it looked like it was going to a classroom in the school that was like a shack. Us, being curious 7-year-olds, we all asked to go to the bathroom, and for some reason, she let us all go. So we made our way to the shack, but the thing about the shack is that it had a corridor to the end of the shack where the classroom door would be on your right. We opened the door, stepped in the classroom, where all of a sudden the door slammed shut. Everything went dark, and it became really windy when we heard, whoo, like what you would hear from a ghost. We all freaked out, and we bolted towards the door, but we couldn't open it. It didn't feel like it was locked, but felt like someone was holding it closed on the other side. All 3 of us were screaming, pulling on the door when all the wind stopped and it became bright again, and we burst the door open. But no one was there. If someone was playing a prank on us, they wouldn't have had enough time to run out of the shack because the corridor was quite long. We were quite shooken up when we saw our teacher standing at the end of the corridor, furious that we lied about going to the bathroom. But when we explained the story, of course, she didn't believe us. That wasn't the first time when something creepy happened at that school, because there was a girl who died there. Maybe it was her spirit? I don't know. Yes, you should have led with that. Clearly that was the girl's spirit. I'm wondering about the ooh sound, because like real spirits, I've never heard any of them do like ooh noises. I feel like that's just in the movies. So maybe it was just something that sounded like that, or maybe you heard like the wind whistling or something. But yeah, if some weird stuff is happening like that, it was probably the girl that passed away at the school. Oh my God, that probably freaked you out so much at 7 years old, though I can't even imagine. But why she would have like locked you in that classroom and done all that weird shit, I don't know. That doesn't sound like a very nice spirit thing to do, so I don't really know. What do you guys think? Let me know what you think in the comments, and thank you so much for sharing your story. That story you read the other day about that out-of-body experience made these 2 memories come to the foreground of my memory/mind's eye. Both of these experiences happened at the same house. First is the earliest memory that I can recall. I'm a newborn. A woman is carrying me face up in her forearms, like mothers tend to do. She's smiling and interacting with me playfully. Walking down the hallway and making a right turn into a bedroom I remember all too well. It's at my mother's parents' house in Riverside, California. They lived in orange groves and dairy pastures out by the freeways. She carried me into the room and set me down on the bed that was in the middle of the room to the left side. She proceeded to change my diaper. The next one is roughly the late 80s, no later than early 90s, 1993 at the latest. This situation happened in my grandfather's room across from the other room from my other memory. I was roughly 5 years to 8 years old. I didn't usually sleep in that room when we visited, but this night we did for some reason. I was awakened in the middle of the night out of nowhere. The room seemed to be in what would seem like a crisp, clear light, not usual for the time of night and day that it was. I had a desire or want to look out the window, which was facing my grandfather's welding shop, as he was a welder/tinkerer, and he would teach welding at the community college in Riverside, California. As I stepped up on my tippy toes to look outside, I could focus on a little glowing being behind a railroad tie that was standing vertically on each side of the big chain-like gate. It steps to the side, exposing itself and just standing there, face to face. It's glowing kind of like an iridescent glow, not a bright shining. It's a greenish glow. I also do not get a sense of fear or anything extreme. It just is. Like a sense of, here I am, there you are. We're here. It looks like a little gray ET. Really wild, I know. I love that I have these little gems of memory in my life. It has somewhat grounded me for the duration of my life. I have also seen a craft once or twice, spinning lights in the center line of the craft, and then whoosh, away it goes. My mother has also recalled seeing the same craft in her days. Thank you for doing what you do and allowing us to all share what we have experienced. Much love and light to all. If you and your mother both experienced the same craft, I feel like this is a check-in situation. I feel like they're coming to check on you and you might be a hybrid. It's really cool that you saw a being though and it didn't give you like a sense of fear or anything. I wonder, have you seen the craft or any beings since then? But that's my take on it. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments and thank you so much for sharing your story. Hi, Auntie Matrix. Hi. Hope you see this. Anyways, to get started, I started having paranormal encounters at a young age, like maybe 4 or 5, starting in my childhood bedroom that was always cold for no reason. The house was haunted, and this specific time I saw an old woman walking up the stairs towards my room. I think she lived in my room personally, as it had a pretty blue floral wallpaper. Think the late 1800s house. Next story is at one of my schools, and this one was Hathaway School, and it was at an old school building with 3 flights of stairs. There was this ghost named Grammy Hathaway, which was the resident ghost as well as Grandpa Hathaway. Her story goes as follows. On the 2nd floor, there was a bathroom, like many stalls, clearly meant for young children, like concrete floors, black wooden stall doors with no locks. I said it was old. I wasn't kidding. I was going to the bathroom, and I was the only one on that floor as everyone was at breakfast on the 1st floor. I hear the sounds of heels and boots on the concrete floors. Mind you, the rest of the floor is made up of rug and wood. Grammy also used to open and close the creaky wooden doors. And on videos and photos, you would see orbs. Now to go to the Hatman. Firstly, I will say he has always been a comforting spirit in my life the times I've seen him, which was few. Anyways, in a creaky old classroom on a random day, I look over to the window and in the reflection, I see this man who's in a hat. And you can see his trench coat around his collar. Now to the next and final story. The next story is set up in my bedroom, not the house but apartment, and I was having an episode of sleep paralysis. It was common for me to be up till sunrise, think 5 to 6 a.m., and this was maybe early part of the year like January or February. I wake up not being able to move, and I see in the corner the Hatman. Except, like last time, it feels comforting somehow, like someone is watching over me. The light as well makes me feel safe, and I know it's sleep paralysis. I've known of the sleep condition. I can't move at all, and I know why. And I see the Hatman and the lights outside, so I just feel safe and lull back into slumber once more. Haven't seen from him again, and it's been 8 years. First story was in 2005, 2006. Second is in 2008, 2009. And third is 2015. Haven't experienced much since, but since watching you on TikTok, I'm more of a big believer in all this kind of stuff. Thank you for reading, Auntie. Appreciate all the videos that you make. I think it's interesting that you say that you were comforted by the Hatman, because most stories, people are scared of the Hatman, but there are some stories where people are not scared of the Hatman and they do not feel like he's a bad presence And he is always a watcher. He does seem to always be a watcher. He doesn't seem to ever do anything, just kind of watch. I love that your school was haunted and you actually had a name for the ghosts that live there. Let me know what you guys think in the comments of these stories, and thank you so much for sharing. Hiya, Auntie Matrix. Hiya. I'm 16 years old and I love all of your content as I love everything supernatural. Woo! This experience happened last year around October. I go to a musical theater college, which means we do a lot of dance and movement. This particular day, I was very tired as we had done dance all day. I got home around 5:30 p.m. and had a shower and things, and then went into my room to chill. Around 7 o'clock p.m., my sister said that she was going to the shops and asked me if I wanted anything. I asked her if she could get me a Sprite and a packet of crisps. While she was out, I started to get a bit tired and had a little nap. I fell asleep at around 7:10 p.m. This is where it starts getting a little creepy. So my bedroom door is quite loud and woke me up when she came into the room. When she came in, she threw the packet of crisps and the Sprite on my bed. I vividly remember the sound of the crisps packet and the feeling of the heaviness of the Sprite on my leg. This was around 7:25. I remember because I checked my phone and I was still really tired, so I fell back to sleep. About 20 minutes later, I heard my bedroom door open again, and it was my sister. She threw another packet of crisps and a Sprite on my bed. I thought she forgot that she'd just given me my stuff, so I said to her, "You've already given me my snacks." In which she replied, "No, I didn't. I've just gotten back from the shops." I looked down to where she had thrown the food, and there was only one packet of crisps and one bottle of Sprite. I was so confused. So I checked the time on my phone, and it said that the time was 7:25. I told her what happened, and she thought it was weird because she had only just got back from the shops, and she still had her coat and her shoes on. To this day, I'm not sure what happened. This kind of sounds like to me that you had like a little premonition over something really trivial. I feel like a lot of the times when we're opening up spiritually to things like this, to premonitions and things like this, that spirit will give us stupid ones, like not that this is stupid, but I mean it's stupid. It's just chips and a drink, right? They'll give us like little things like this to help validate what we're doing and help us practice, if that makes sense. So to me, it I don't know if you've had any since then. I'd be really interested to know, have you had any since then? But that's what it sounds like to me. Maybe you had just like a weird little premonition about your sister bringing you the Sprite and the chips. That is my idea. Let me know what your ideas are in the comments, and thank you so much for sharing your story. Hello. Hi. Love you and your page. Thank you. I seen you talk about the moon and how it now looks HD. Yes, I did put a video up about that last year, about how literally the moon looks like a new version of the moon. Like whoever is projecting the moon, I'm like, good job to you, okay? Because it looks so HD. I have always been fascinated in the moon, its phases. I have always been fascinated in the moon, its phases, and pretty much just the sky in general. Well, the Friday after Thanksgiving, I saw an orb circling the moon and doing something weird around it. The orb was going around, and then it would get really bright and then go around, as if it was getting different angles, and go bright again, almost as if the orb was taking pictures. My nephew and I both witnessed this and even went inside and came back hours later, and the orb was still there, still doing whatever it was. How I definitely know it wasn't a star, for stars do not orbit the moon or stick to the moon when it orbits us. Just curious if anyone else has witnessed this, and yes, I agree that the moon now looks different. I have not personally experienced that. The first thing I thought of was some sort of spaceship or satellite going around the moon taking pictures, but I feel like those things are so far out into space and so small that you wouldn't see them, like you wouldn't really see them. But I honestly don't know. I'm not really sure. I'm very interested to see if anyone else has seen something like this or knows if you would be able to see a satellite. So please let us know in the comments, and thank you for sharing your story. Hi, Auntie Matrix. Hi. I've been watching your videos a lot. This is my first submission because I have a lot of unexplainable stories, and this one just happened to me. It's currently 11:48 a.m. while typing this. This story happened at 10:48 a.m. I have 4 cats. My gray chunky cat was with me, mom cat was in the living room, Ski Mask was in my brother's room, and Moo Moo was in the kitchen. Ski Mask? I did not choose the names. Wait, hold on. Gray Chunky, Mom Cat, Ski Mask, and Moo Moo. Who chose those names? Because I love them. Anyways, some background. Our house was built in the early 1930s, maybe 40s. I'm not sure, but it was built backwards. And the first room in the house is my room, which was supposed to be the last room in the house. My family is the second family to live here because this house has been in our family since my grandparents had their kids, and they're all in their 40s, probably 50s as well. I'm 18 and I've lived here for my entire life, so yes, this house is very old. When I was around 10 years old, my grandma passed away due to heart problems. She was our rock, and the family practically fell apart after her passing. I'm so sorry. After she passed, we all experienced some sort of sign that she was still with us. The door to my room would open and close as a sign when no one was in there, but we weren't scared. We would smell her perfume, and we would have dreams of her as well. I do believe that the dreams, it couldn't or could have been my grandma because entities can take the form of those that you love. Anyways, some believe she can't cross over because she still needs to take care of us, and others it's because we pray to her and keep her here with us. I'm not religious at all, but I do believe in stuff like this, and my dad doesn't, and my brother has had his own experiences in this house and outside of this house. I am alone in this house half the time because my brother works early in the morning and doesn't get home until 2 to 3 p.m., or even later than my dad, and my dad works from 6 to 7 p.m. when busy. So I would be alone for like 12 hours a day. Sorry, this was a lot of background. No worries. Anyways, I'm currently home alone and I was going to take a nap around 10 a.m. to get ready for work at 1 p.m. I go into work at 2 p.m. My chunky cat was with me in the room and he was asleep. I was on TikTok scrolling and I was feeling tired, but I also felt like I couldn't sleep, so I started to roll on my sides to keep me awake. As I was drifting off to sleep, I heard a low growl, but in my mind, if that makes sense. I sound so crazy. I know what I heard, but my cat didn't react to anything. So I was awake because I was like a little creeped out, but I remained calm. Then I was still scrolling on my phone when I heard a low, deep voice say, "You know who." And I thought I was going nuts. So I looked at my cat and he was asleep. I was so creeped out and not scared, just like, what the fuck is going on? After a few minutes of just scrolling and doing nothing on my phone, I decided to take a nap. I was slowly drifting off to sleep when something slapped the back of my head to keep me awake. Immediately after that, I almost went into sleep paralysis and I felt like I couldn't fully wake up. I was having trouble moving. I fought so hard to freaking move and I couldn't fully wake up because my eyes were struggling to stay awake. I feel like something wanted me to stay asleep and something else woke me up. I texted my boyfriend about this and told him what happened, and I thought it was Z, and he tried his best to reassure me that it wasn't and that it could be something else. So I'm hoping it's something else. He believes me and knows I'm not lying because he has had experiences too with different things. Throughout this entire thing, my cat didn't wake up even after I jolted awake. I felt like I was alone, but I wasn't alone. Thank you for reading my story. I have a lot more of this house and a house in Mexico. I have so many stories. Thank you, Auntie Matrix, and those who give me advice. Love you all. So I'm not positive. Tell me in the comments, friends, but I believe that Z that she's referring to is a demon. It's the name of a demon, like a very famous and really bad, super evil demon. But I don't know the full name. And I know you're not supposed to say it, which is why people just say Z. But someone tell me what it is in the comments because I can't remember. I mean, I don't know if it was like that one specifically, but something was clearly going on. It did sound like if you were like kind of in sleep paralysis, but then something was trying to like wake you up, it does feel like maybe there was some sort of demonic or evil entity in the room, negative entity that was trying to attack you during sleep or sleep paralysis, put you in sleep paralysis and like attack you during that. And that there was some sort of good, helpful entity that was helping you by like keeping you awake, slapping the back of your head to wake up. I'm glad you're okay. Has anything else like this happened again? Let me know what you guys think in the comments, and thank you so much for sharing your story. This happened when I was 16 years old. First, a little background. My grandparents' house was really old. Like, it had gas lights when they bought it. That's so old. And now the story. I woke up one night needing to use the bathroom. Now, to get to the bathroom, you had to walk through another bedroom to get to the bathroom. So I do my business, and as I turn to look back towards my bedroom door, I notice that I can't see anything in my room. I blow this off as my eyes haven't adjusted to the dark yet. I start walking towards my room, and I can see everything around me, but I still can't see in my room. I get to my door, and it's pitch black in my room. That wasn't normal. I have 3 big windows on one wall, so there was always some light. Anyway, I take one step in my room and run smack dab into something. Again, the room is super dark, so I try to take a step again, and I hit something again. Now I'm very confused, but I figure I hit my nightstand, so I feel and I find my nightstand on the side of me. Now I flip out and I look and I see this massive black blob in my room right in front of me. I reach for my light and I could feel something pulling my hand away from the light switch. I fight to the light switch to turn on the light and look and see what's in my room, and nothing. I slept with my lights on for the next week. To this day, I still don't know what I encountered, but I know it was not good. They added these pictures. So this is the layout of the house. So the bedroom is at the top. Then they had to go through another bedroom, the spare bedroom, through the hall and out to the bathroom. That's really weird that there's 2 bedrooms and like they're just connected to each other. It's interesting. Maybe that was one giant room and it was made into 2. So they came out of the bathroom, they go through, and right here, they're hitting the blob and the table is right to the right of them. They're like, oh man, that's not the table. I'm walking into something. And this is what they saw. They just saw literally just black. That is so crazy. I don't know what that was. It was definitely something. I think it's interesting that it was a blob shape, because a lot of people see a shadow figure or an entity and it's like blacker than black, like darker than dark, but it's like kind of has the shape of a human form. But you just saw like a black blob and you couldn't get past it, which is crazy that you couldn't physically get past it. And once you turned the lights on, you could, and it wasn't there anymore. Like, that's the weird part to me, right? Because I've heard of, the shadow figures, people seeing shadow figures, people seeing entities. When they turn on the light, it disappears. Cool. But the fact that you physically couldn't pass it and then you could when the light was on, this is the light switch, by the way, if you haven't noticed, is so crazy to me. What do you guys think about this? Has anyone experienced this sort of entity that's like a unmovable blob? Please let me know in the comments. I'm so interested. Thank you so much for sharing your story. Hi. Okay, so I don't know if this is a glitch in the Matrix or something paranormal or I don't know what. This happened to me about a week ago and I am still shook. I was asleep in my bed, and to paint you a picture of the scene, my fiance sleeps on the right side of me, up against the wall, and I am on the left. When I turn on my left side, back facing my fiance, I am facing towards a doorway that turns towards the right after stepping through it, that leads to our master bathroom. Anyway, I suddenly woke up to my fiance calling my name from the bathroom. I have no clue what time it is, but I know it was very late. I sat up and I said, "What?" And then he said, "Come here." I replied, "What are you doing? Why is the light off?" And then he stuck his head out from around the corner, but because it was so dark, I couldn't make out any facial features or anything, just the silhouette of his head. "Come here," he said, and then quickly retracted his head back around the corner. Just as I put my feet on the floor, my fiance says, "What are you doing? Who are you talking to?" From right next to me on the bed. I quickly turn on the lights and look around the corner, and no one was in the bathroom. Truly a terrifying experience. I know I was talking to someone or something that mimicked my fiance's voice, and what the heck poked its head around the corner. Okay, this was such a short one, but it gave me so many chills. That sounded like a mimic to me if it was mimicking your fiance's voice. And it had so much energy that it was literally also had a figure about it. I can't believe it was trying to get you to come in the bathroom and it poked its head out. Come here. Come here. I'm glad you turned the lights on before you went in. I don't know what would have happened if you didn't. Has that ever happened again? I am so scared for you right now. How could you use your bathroom after that? I would be sleeping with the lights on for eternity. Oh my God. Woo! Let me know what you guys think about this one in the comments, and thank you so much for sharing your story. Hi, Auntie Matrix. Hi. I love your channel and your content. Thank you. I'm the creator of Johnny's Treasure Quest in Michigan. I don't know what that is. During the shutdown, we took the contents of the jewelry store my husband Johnny had been running for 23 years prior, and we hid everything around the state of Michigan and started hosting treasure hunts and other fun adventures across the state of Michigan. Oh my God, That is a great idea. I wish I could go to one. So for the last nearly 4 years, I've spent much time alone in forests, hiding treasure and or wooden X's, and then on the other side of that, drawing treasure maps and writing riddles. We have had a number of scary experiences deep in the woods, one of which was in September of 2021 at Tawas Point Lighthouse. We had gone out there to hide an X and a treasure bag, and initially I fell behind Johnny to take some pictures of the lighthouse. Eventually, I saw a figure and heard a voice that sounded like Johnny, but a little off, say to hurry up. So I started to follow that figure to the tree lines. Just as I was about to hit the tree line and I was approaching that figure slash voice that had called out to me, I hear Johnny a ways behind me say, "Where are you going?" And I turn and look. It's Johnny. So now I'm creeped out, looking back and forth between the two Johnnies. The figure was about his size, but I couldn't make out a face, and the voice sounded like Johnny, but slightly off. I head immediately back to where I was and where that second real Johnny was. I see his face, and he's terrified. So I'm thinking that he just saw what I did, and he says, "No, listen." I could hear a child's laughing, giggling voice calling to us from behind that same tree line saying, "Come here, come play with me, don't be scared." And we were terrified. Oh my God, kind of like me right now because I have chills again. The only thing beyond the trees was Lake Huron, and there's no reason for a child to be out there late at night. It's dangerous. We were only there to hide treasure when it was isolated. We walked immediately to my Jeep and left. All the while, Johnny's asking me, "What is that?" And I'm going, "We aren't going to talk about it while we're out here." Johnny said that night he couldn't figure out why I had walked away, and it seemed like I was being drawn away from him. I'm attaching some pictures from that night. I'd love to know what you think we may have encountered that night. Thanks for reading, Amy. Okay, so this is the lighthouse. Wow, that is actually a very beautiful picture. This isn't, wow. These pictures are gorgeous. Look at these. Oh, is this like the X that you were putting down with like the little clue? Okay, first random question is, do people do these treasure hunts at night? If not, why are you at night going to put things in the woods? Why wouldn't you just do this during the day? There was definitely something in that woods. I feel like the past couple stories, it has been like a mimic situation. This again sounds like a mimic. If they were mimicking his voice, it was a mimic. The children, I don't know what the fuck that was. I don't know if it was all the same thing. The children were trying to draw in Johnny, but other Johnny was trying to draw in you to come to that tree line. And I wonder what was past that tree line. Did you go past the tree line at all? You didn't, right? You just turned around and went back. Did you ever go and see what was past that line? Like where they were luring you to go, like during the day? I'd be interested to see what was there. Probably nothing, probably just the entities, or maybe nothing. Maybe they're just trying to scare you. I don't even know, but that's really creepy. And I need to know why you were doing this in the dark. Let me know what you guys think about this in the comments. Also, let me know if you've ever done one of these treasure quest hunt things in Michigan, because that sounds super duper fun. And thank you so much for sharing your story. Hi, Auntie Matrix. Hi. I adore your channel, and I thought I would send in my personal story of when I actually died and what I remember. Ooh, an NDE story. I love these. I was 12 years old, and I had an appointment to have my eyes examined by an ophthalmologist. It was a matter of minutes before he told my mom to take me to the hospital immediately because he saw swelling in the back of my brain during the exam. I had been experiencing headaches when I would stand up. It felt close to like what it feels like when your toe throbs after you hit it. My mom drove us to the hospital, and the ophthalmologist actually followed us there to tell the doctors what he saw during the exam. I was given a CAT scan, and they found a tumor the size of an egg drowning at the base of my brainstem, heading towards my spine. I remember being afraid because I didn't know what was going on. I had to stay in the hospital overnight and travel to a larger hospital the next day to have surgery. This was happening so fast I could barely process what was actually occurring. I was born and raised in Alaska, and we headed to Anchorage for better health care because the situation was so urgent. Apparently, the doctors told my mom that they were surprised I was not slurring my words or having issues walking based on where the tumor was. It was a matter of hours after having the CAT scan that I went into brain surgery to remove the tumor. They told my parents I had a 14% chance of survival if The surgery went well. Oh my God. The doctors put me under anesthesia and I was in surgery for 12 hours. They told my parents to get some rest as I was in stable condition after the surgery was complete. They went to our friend's house to get some sleep after being assured I was being watched around the clock in ICU. The next thing I remember was seeing myself lying in the hospital bed. No one else in the room, the lights turned low, and no machinery or alerts going off. I was merely sleeping and watching myself from the upper corner of my hospital room. In a snap, I was out of the room and in a car. I saw a leg of someone getting into the back seat where I saw my mom. She was crying and having a panic attack, and my dad had moved from the front passenger to the back seat to comfort her. I remember what she was wearing, a beige sweatshirt with a very distinct fabric pattern and brown buttons. I saw my dad trying to calm my mom down. I then look over and see my parents' friend who they were staying with when I was stable and resting after surgery. He was driving and looked extremely nervous. I could sense something was wrong, but I was a mere observer and did not feel negative or positive. I just watched. I remember the analog clock that was glowing green on the dashboard. It was the middle of the night in Anchorage, Alaska, in the middle of winter. It was very dark, but there were streetlights and snow that looked pink in the sky. I was looking out the front of the car windshield and I saw an overpass and streets covered in snow. It was cold, and I looked at the driver, noticing that he was trying to get where they were going as fast as possible, but also remain safe on the icy roads. In a snap, I was out of the car, and the next thing I remember was waking up in the hospital days later. Apparently, I had exited my body prior to having a brain seizure, which set off emergency codes to the doctors that rushed in and started to try to revive me. I did not see anyone in the room except for myself in the bed, so I was prematurely taken out of my body. Apparently, the doctors called my parents and said I was crashing and to get to the hospital as soon as possible because the chances of my resuscitation were very slim. That was when they left their friend's house and rushed to the hospital. I was actively having a brain seizure and my heart stopped. I technically flatlined and they performed CPR and other life-saving measures to bring me back. When my parents arrived, I was in a coma / still asleep and revived. I was in this state for at least 3 days. When I woke up, I was intubated and I couldn't speak because of the breathing tube. I remember seeing my mom and dad and still being very tired. Flash forward to when I was in college. I went to design school and decided for my senior thesis to examine the mind-body connection. It was when I was reading about other NDEs that I realized that I had had my own NDE and didn't even remember it until that point. I called my mom and asked her if she was wearing that sweatshirt in the car while our friend was driving them to the hospital. I described in detail to her what I saw, right down to the buttons on her sweater. She confirmed that yes, she was wearing that sweater and exactly what I saw occurred in the vehicle. We then Google Earth searched the place I saw, and it was the exact location of the route that they were driving while heading to the hospital. I was stunned and couldn't believe I had not remembered any of it and maybe thought for some time that it was a dream. My mom was shocked as well because of how detailed I remembered everything that happened exactly as it had in real life. What gets me is that my physical brain was having a seizure and overwhelmed after surgery. How was I still functioning to have memory of these things if the brain was the portion of my body responsible for my death? There was no way I could have known what my mom was wearing that day because I was in a coma for 3 additional days and I didn't see her. I for sure was out of my body where time and space do not run concurrently. You are able to go from one place to another in a blink of an eye. Time moves differently and is not linear. I was merely aware and watching things happen. I was not afraid, and just as quickly as I was taken out of my body, I was put back. This is one of the strangest things that has happened in my life. Having my mom and dad confirm what I witnessed in that car really has no explanation other than I was there. In summary, I beat the small odds 14% of surviving cancer after having experimental radiation therapy. I just celebrated my 38th birthday this month. I still remember to this day every detail of when I died. Happy belated birthday, and I'm so glad that you are alive. That is so crazy to me that you didn't even realize that you were having a near-death experience until like later. You just thought it was like a dream or something. But I guess it makes sense because not everybody really knows about them, right? I also think it's interesting that you were taken out of your body before you actually died. Like your soul came out of your body before you even crashed and died and was brought back to life. I wonder if you were taken out so that you didn't experience that trauma and that pain, you know? I'm honestly not really sure. These are all guesses on my part. I have not had a near death experience. I've only read about them. They're so fascinating to me. And I love them because they just further confirm that we are not our physical body. We are just in this physical body during this incarnation right now. Why do you guys think she was taken out before she actually physically died and then put back in? Let me know what you think in the comments. Also, if you've also had an NDE, let us know in the comments. Thank you so much for sharing your story. That concludes our creepy compilation for today. If you like these kinds of videos, there will be more, so make sure that you hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. And if you want to keep it going right now, though, you can check out this video or this playlist.